So beginning to find a comfortable seated position. That may be Sukhasana today, across about the centre of the shin bones, or maybe the knees come down towards the floor. Sitting on some support, as that's just lovely to have, to support the hips and the knees to be lower than the hips, so there's space for the belly to rise and fall with the breath. Maybe softening your gaze, closing the eyes, and finding length through your spine. Take a moment to notice if the head's just moving forwards a little. Sometimes the chin can drop just a couple of centimetres to elongate the back of the neck. Maybe noticing the contact you have with the props or the mat you're seated on. A sense of lifting from the sitting bones, rising towards the crown of the head. Beginning to tune into your breath. Maybe beginning to follow the inhalation and the exhalation, the cooler air as you breathe in, and the warmer air of the breath as you breathe out. Feeling the sensation of the rib cage rising and falling, maybe also the belly. Encouraging your breath to flow in and out through the nostrils if that's possible today. And maybe a sense, not always a feeling, but a sense of the diaphragm, the muscle under the rib cage, working to support your breath. So that dome shape that sits underneath the rib cage, a muscle, involuntary muscle that moves with the inhalation, the exhalation, gently moving down as we inhale, which pushes our belly outwards, and gently rises again as we exhale, with the navel moving towards the spine. So as we breathe in, rib cage expanding, belly expanding, and as we breathe out, rib cage contracting, and navel moving towards our spine. And we'll begin to maybe extend our exhalation. As we breathe in, counting our inhalation, our own count, our own rhythm. And as we breathe out, ensuring the length of the exhalation is just a moment longer, maybe one count longer than the inhalation. And if you're familiar with ratio breathing, Samavitri breathing, you're welcome to inhale for 4 and exhale for 6. Or maybe inhale for 6 and exhale for 8. And as always, if this feels uncomfortable anyway or restrictive, coming back to observing your breath. Welcome to stay with ratio breathing throughout our session today, or if you're familiar with Ujjayi breath, coming to your Ujjayi practice, or maybe you feel more comfortable just observing your breath through the movement today. If your eyes are closed, gently tucking the chin towards the chest, opening your eyes and encouraging your head back to center. Slowly coming off any support, and we're going to come into melting heart. And for some of us, which includes me, can feel quite strong in the shoulders. You may want some padding under the knees. We come into a box position to begin with, and then gently slide the hands forwards. Now the forehead can come to rest on the mat, or maybe you have a little bit of height under the forehead, and that can relieve any tightness or tension in the upper back, shoulders. If the shoulders feel particularly tight, it's not comfortable for you, maybe you bring the forehead to the forearm and extend through one arm. So finding the shape that best supports you, and I'm going to just grab my timer. We're going to be here for 3 minutes. So making sure you have a sense of being able to hold this for a longer period of time. It's a yin shape, so we're coming to about 40 to 70% of our range of motion here. Taking the next few moments to ensure your comfort. Still feel a little bit of a stretch. And as you find stillness, focusing once again on your breath.
Maybe beginning to notice sensations soften, melt away. Maybe noticing the points of contact you have between your body and your mat. Directing your breath to any felt discomfort in the body. Maybe it's a little bit of tightness around the shoulders. Maybe you're feeling this around your hips. As the body begins to soften, find space, encouraging the breath to support it to do so. On your next inhalation, taking your time to maybe bend into the elbows a little more. And very slowly, mindfully bringing the arms, the hands back towards your body. And we'll kind of come into a box position, so our cat-cow position. Any tightness in the wrist, now you can roll the end of the mat or have a rolled blanket underneath the fingers or come into soft fists. And we'll take 6 rounds of cat-cow, just taking a moment to find your happy place with the hands and the knees, make sure you have any support or padding for the knees that you wish. And beginning to take the gaze forwards, dropping the belly into cow. Curling the spine, taking the gaze towards the knees or maybe towards the belly into cat. Maybe integrating the breath here, breathing in to take the gaze forwards. Breathing out to curl round into cat. Two more rounds, working with your rhythm. Knowing that you're the expert in your body, and your body is your expert, always listening to what our bodies are telling us. And as you finally come into stillness, into the box position, gently releasing, maybe sitting on the heels and releasing, I was going to say the ankles, but I mean the wrists. Gently rotating, maybe bringing some movement to the hands. So we're going to come back to that motion of the spine, bring a little bit more movement into it. Finding your way back into your box position. Breathing in to take the gaze forwards. Breathing out to sit back on our heels and come into child's pose. So if you know you need any support under the ankles, tucked in behind the knees, just taking that support to come into an extended child's pose. Taking a couple of breaths here. And we'll breathe in to come back to center. Take the gaze forwards, drop the belly, and breathe out to extend through the spine into our cat. Slowly sitting back into our child's pose, extending through the arms. On your next inhalation, sliding the hands back towards the body, dropping the belly into cow, gaze moving forwards, and slowly sitting back onto the heels, extended child's pose. And this time maybe you pad the hands towards the right hand side. Welcome to creep or pad the left hand a little further away, creating a stretch around the left armpit, the left side of the body. Keeping the gaze towards the mat, towards the floor, so there's no unnecessary strain in the neck. And slowly bringing the hands back to center. Sliding the hands back towards the body into our box position, and we'll come into cat. So tucking the chin towards the chest, spine moving up towards the sky, and then slowly sitting back into our child's pose, extended again. And this time we can move our hands towards the left hand side. And once again, maybe the right hand extends a little further to create a stretch around the right shoulder, the right armpit, and down the right side of the body. Breathing in, coming back to center. Slowly bringing the hands back underneath the shoulders. And we'll take just a couple of rounds of cat-cow to release the spine again. So breathing in to take the gaze forwards. Belly drops, breathing out to curl the spine round. Finally coming back into stillness, and we'll extend through the right leg. So taking the right toes towards the mat or the floor behind you, reaching away with the right heel. So beginning to stretch into the right calf muscle. Welcome to come down onto elbows. So if wrists are starting to get a little tired, just coming down to the elbows can feel supportive. Gently bringing the right knee back to center and extending through the left. Have a sense that the left toes, each toe from the little toe to the big toe, is in contact with the mat, the floor beneath you. And a sense of the left heel reaching away. Bringing the left knee back to center, and we're going to make our way all the way down towards the floor, towards the mat. So we're coming into Sphinx, and we'll come into the yin Sphinx. So we're going to be holding it again for 3 minutes. So you may want a little bit of padding under the hips, a folded blanket. You may want some padding under the knees. Elbows under shoulders, and as you come into this shape, the forearms are parallel. Take a moment to listen to the lower back. How's it feeling today? If that is feeling painful or just niggly in any way, just not happy in any way, taking the elbows further forward, so softening the back bend. So as we're going to hold this for 3 minutes, we want to know that there's a sense of a stretch, it's a back bend, but we can maintain it for that long. So finding your shape. I have my timer, I'm just turning that over to time 3 minutes. ensuring the fingers are spread. The chest is rising, so there's a sense of lifting from the sternum. The gaze can be just ahead or towards the floor ahead of you. Maybe you're able to bring a softness to the glutes. And I personally know I have a tendency to start to sort of shrink a little to allow everything to collapse. So if you feel a sense of the chest just lowering a little, encouraging the chest to lift and rise again. And it can help to engage the forearms and the hands. So maybe you begin to gently press into the hands and the forearms. Just switching on the upper body a little more. Noticing if the jaw's relaxed. Maybe the tongue can rest in the lower part of the mouth. So as the chest rises, any unwanted emotions, maybe worry or anxiety, frustration, even tiredness, can be released. And we also know in Sphinx, supporting the spine, particularly the lumbar spine, the lower back, to strengthen, to renew. And we'll come into a very gentle twist as we slowly come out of Sphinx. So gently pressing into the right hand. The right hand arm almost straightens. We're just looking towards the right hand side, no further. Coming back through center. Gently straightening the left, looking towards the left hand side. And slowly coming back through center. Allowing the chest to lower towards the ground. Maybe taking the hands, just the hands stacked, forehead can rest on the hands. Allowing the belly to settle, the lower back, into a much gentler shape, a gentler back bend. And when you're ready, pushing back into either an extended child's pose or maybe a downward facing dog. And if you're coming in downward facing dog, hands are about shoulder width apart, fingers spread, that sense of stability through the hands. The weight is even through each finger and the thumb. Inner elbows facing each other, shoulders, shoulder blades moving together. And as it's a first downward facing dog, beginning to bring some movement to the back of the legs. And maybe you slowly move between extended child's pose and downward dog, just bringing some movement, some space to the body. Or maybe you come into a slightly stronger shape of plank. So slowly rocking forwards and coming into plank. And the hands need to be under our shoulders. Welcome to take this with the knees dropping towards the floor. If you're on your toes, there's a line from the crown of the head to the heels. Same hand positioning, making sure the shoulders are safe. Belly button towards spine, Mula Bandha. So at any point you need to, dropping down to heels or into child's pose. Or maybe you push back into a downward facing dog for 3 or 4 breaths. In your own time, just ensuring the knees are not locked. There's always a softness in the knees. And then slowly rocking forwards into plank. If you're following the plank and downward dog, taking 2 more in your own time, trying to stick to about 4 breaths in each position. Listening to your body. Coming down to rest in any time in child's pose. And then if you're not there already, finding your way into Balasana, into child's pose. Any version that supports you. Maybe the hands come under the head. Maybe you take a block under the forehead. Hands can rest on the floor just in front of you, or maybe traditionally the hands rest behind the body or by the side of the body. So beginning to build a little bit of strength through the bones and Sphinx. Downward dog and plank. Building bone density, strengthening bones. But also building stamina. Finding our inner strength. On your next inhalation, finding your way slowly up to sitting. And we're going to come up to standing and come through a gentle flow. So coming to one end of your mat and finding your Tadasana, finding your mountain pose. Feet can be together or hip distance apart, but just taking a moment to ground through the feet. So maybe you gently rock forwards and backwards from the toes to the heels. Maybe you begin to take some very small circles around the soles of the feet. And eventually coming into stillness here. So finding the shape, the balance, the center point of your Tadasana. And when you finally come into stillness, that sense of rooting down through the heels. As you root down through the heels, through the feet, with the toes spread, there's also a sense of growing through the length of the spine to the crown of the head. On our next inhalation, raising the arms, maybe the gaze follows. Exhaling, folding forwards, leading with the heart. As we breathe in, hands come to shins, maybe higher, flat back. And we're breathing out and folding forwards. Bending into the knees, stepping the right foot back. We're going to come into dragon, yin shape on this side. So heel toeing the left foot towards the left side of the mat. Hands come through center. There is always the option to bring the floor to you, depending on how the knees are feeling. Depending on how the hip flexors, the lower back is feeling. So finding the shape that supports you here. Maybe you come to fists to soften into the wrists. Maybe you begin to fold forwards a little further. The elbows can come down towards the floor. I've got my elbows on some blocks. Starting to create a little bit of space in the left hip. So option to stay here, or maybe you come into a twist. Taking the right hand towards the floor or to the props you're using. The left hand can either rest on the lower back as you turn towards the left hand side, or maybe the left arm raises, palm facing away from you. So a couple of options there. There's also the possibility of gently rolling the left foot onto the little toe side of the left edge, I should say, of the little toe side. So the left knee's falling out towards the left hand side. Again, being mindful of any knee injuries. So with everything we practice, there's no pain, there's no strain. There may be strong sensations of stretching, finding space, but definitely no pain. If you have come into the twist, slowly finding your way back to center. Heel toeing the left foot back to center. And we're back into our lunge. And from here we're stepping back into plank. So familiar, as we've practiced it maybe already. Always the option to come down to knees. Spreading the hands, finding the strength through the hands, balance, the weight balance through the hands. And then gently dropping down to knees, chest and chin, and into Cobra. Just a baby Cobra. Elbows tucking into the chest. Gaze forwards. On your next exhalation, downward facing dog, or maybe you come into extended child's pose. So finding the shape that best serves you today at this point. If you're in downward dog, a sense of sitting bones rising, lifting towards the sky, belly moving towards the thighs. Option here is to drop down to the knees and step the right foot forwards, or maybe you lift the right leg up behind you, bend the knee and swing it forwards. Left foot coming to follow, to mirror, whether that's parallel or feet together, and we're into Uttanasana. And we're going to take a few breaths here. So a couple of options, hands can hang, maybe the fingertips reach the floor, maybe you take hold of opposite elbows and come into the dangling shape of Yin Yoga. Sitting bones reaching up towards the sky, bending the knees as much as you feel you need to, always keeping a micro bend in the knee to avoid any strain. Gently releasing the hands. Hands can come to the hips. Our head has been lower than our heart for a little while, so we're going to come up slowly on the next inhalation. Your next inhalation, slowly coming back to our standing Tadasana. The head, the neck, last part of the body to move, and finding length through the spine.
Taking a moment here to enjoy the stillness, the stability of mountain. And we'll take the sequence on the other side. On your next inhalation, reaching up towards the sky. Exhaling, folding forwards.
Inhaling, flat back. Exhaling, folding forwards. From here, the left foot is stepping back. We're coming into our lunge and dragon on the other side. So making sure the right knee is above the right ankle. Heel toeing the right foot out towards the right hand side. Hands come to center. So once again, taking any props you need or feel can support you on this side. Our hips will always feel different on each side. And once again, we're going to come into this shape and hold it for about 3 minutes. So just finding a shape that is going to support you for 3 minutes. It's not the strongest, but it's also you can feel a little bit of a sensation in the right hip. So we're coming to about 40 to 70% of our movement or shape here. If you have the mobility, the flexibility to come down to elbows, whether that's on a support or towards the floor, the mat. Just coming down, checking in, that feels okay. Allowing the head, the neck to soften. The breath to flow. Notice if the jaw is relaxed, tongue resting in the lower part of the mouth. Maybe you're beginning to notice the sensations of the stretch, of the shape melting a little. Option here now is to come into the twist, so always an option. Welcome to stay in dragon here for a little longer. Or maybe the left hand comes towards the floor or the props you're using and you turn towards the right hand side. And again, we're listening to our shoulders, so it might be that the right hand comes to rest on the lower back. Maybe the hand extends and the palm faces away from you. So finding a twist in dragon. Also welcome to gently roll the right foot onto the little toe edge. Again, being mindful of knees, the strength in the hips, can feel a little bit stronger. And always option to gently come back, edge off. Bringing the right foot back onto the mat if you rolled out on the twist, releasing the right hand and very slowly heel toeing the right foot back to center. And we're easing out of this, taking your time to release the right leg back, and we're coming into our plank position. So finding your way into plank. Dropping down to the knees if you're not there already. Releasing down through the chest, and we're coming into a baby cobra. So the hands are under the shoulders, elbows hugging the rib cage, lifting the chest. Exhaling, releasing the body down. Inhaling, downward facing dog or extended child's pose. Notice if you can tuck the chin a little if you're in down dog, lengthening the back of the neck. And then from here, welcome to drop down to the knees, stepping the left foot forwards. Or maybe you lift the left leg and swing it through. Right foot follows, going to come into dangling or forward fold, Uttanasana. Have a sense that the feet are parallel, the weight is even. And maybe you take hold of opposite elbows into dangling. Sitting bones reaching up towards the sky. On your next exhalation, releasing the hands. Hands can come to the hips. And as we breathe in, we're slowly coming up. As the head's been lower than the heart, slowly, slowly coming to standing. Head, neck, the last to come back into Dasana, and releasing the hands back to the sides of the body. And taking a moment here, a moment to notice grounding through the feet, length through the spine, enjoying the sense of stillness. The eyes are closed, gently opening the eyes. And you may want to gently bring some movement, bending the knees. We're going to come into pyramid. So strong but pyramid near a wall or a work surface or counter, so we can then come into warrior 3. So feet hip distance apart today, slightly wider, offering a bit more stability. And so we've come into a wide-legged hip distance apart Tadasana, lifting through the spine. And we're going to step the right foot forwards, the right foot to a chair, wall, wherever you know you're going to fly into warrior 3. Legs are straight. If there's any tightness in the knees or pain, keeping a microbend, especially if you have a knee injury, microbend can really help support the knee. Left foot's turning out to about 10 o'clock on the face of the clock. Hips, hip bones, the iliac crest facing forwards. And I like to bring my hands to my hips here to check they're sort of level, almost level. If you have straightened the legs, just making sure the quads are turned on. Breathing in, lifting the chest, breathing out to fold forwards. Now if you've kept a bend in the knee to protect the knees, it's going to feel a little bit different, but you'll still be getting a stretch in the back of the right calf, back of the right thigh. Maybe you release the hands and the fingertips reach the floor. Maybe you take hold of opposite elbows, that dangling position. So 2 options there. A sense of the right hip moving back, left hip moving forwards. Check the space for the neck. Shoulders are soft, relaxed. going to bend into the right knee, strong bend, right knee almost coming over right ankle. Releasing the hands, and we're coming to standing. Taking your time to get there. And this is where we're going to reach into Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3. So coming to it with support, hands are reaching towards the wall, chair, kitchen surface, wherever you're working today. Fingertips can come all the way, whatever feels most supportive. And then we're lifting the left leg. Once again, we want to keep a micro bend in the knee wherever we are. Even if we straighten the leg, I've got a little bit of softness, just 1% of softness around that knee. If there's a knee injury, bending into the knee. Thinking about the quads turning on, and as we have the hands on some support, it's lovely. It's taking the balance out, so we can really work with creating a balance in the hips here. They're level. So we're trying not to rotate out like we do in half moon. The left heel's reaching away. Maybe the heel's able to come in line with the left hip. And you can maybe bring the hands here towards the floor. If you feel you have the balance and you want to take the full version, then please do. You may need to maneuver yourself away from the wall a little, the chair, whatever you're using. Gazes towards the floor so the head and the neck are in line with the spine. On your next exhalation, bend into the right knee as much as you can to facilitate the left leg coming down. And I'm just going to gently rock between the two. And you may find that even just pedaling through the feet a little can feel really supportive. Gentle roll of the shoulders as well. So sometimes if you've come into a balance in that way, we can hold a little bit of tension and tightness as we concentrate around the neck and the shoulders. So if you did come into the full balance, just releasing through the shoulders and the neck. And we'll take that on the opposite side. So the feet are coming to about hip distance. And this time the left foot is stepping forwards. Hip distance mainly because it helps the right hip come round, come forwards a little more, a little bit kinder on our bodies as women. Feeling into the knees, taking any bends you may need before we come into the forward fold. Right foot is turning out to about 2 o'clock on the face of a clock. Hands can come to hips. Breathing in, reaching up through the chest. Breathing out, folding forwards. If the legs are straight, just engaging the quads, making sure those thigh muscles are turned on to really support the knees, protecting the knees. As we turn the thigh muscles on, you'll notice, or you may feel a lift of the kneecap. Vastus medialis muscles turning on. Fingertips can reach down towards the floor, or maybe you take hold of opposite elbows into a dangling shape. And just be aware of the shoulders. They're moving back, they're soft, giving the neck plenty of space. Grounding through the feet, finding that stability through the feet. And when you're ready, bending into the left knee, we're coming up to standing. Hands can come to hips. And this is where we're going to fly into Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana. So reaching to your prop, whether that's a chair or a wall. Maybe you're beginning here, but know you're coming into the full balance. Always up to you, listening to what your body needs today. Right leg lifts, right heel, maybe coming all the way to be level with the right hip, encouraging the hips to be level so we haven't turned out towards the side. Protecting the left knee, whether that's a little bit of a bend or just ensuring the quads are turned on. Gazes towards the floor. If you're coming into the full balance, now's the time to move away from the support. Bending into the left leg, allowing the right foot to come down towards the floor, wherever it meets the floor, and finding a little bit of movement between the legs. So bend into the knees. Maybe take a couple of shoulder rolls, releasing the shoulders. And we're going to slowly find our way down towards the floor again. Popping on any extra layers as we start to cool down. We're going to come into Crocodile. So lying on our front with the forearms stacked. So another back bend. And it's a gentle back bend, supportive back bend. I like to have some padding under my elbows, taking the time to find that shape. And if it feels too strong for the lower back, we've practiced Sphinx today and come through Cobras. Maybe it's just the hands stacked, a slightly softer bend for the lower back. So finding the shape that best supports you. And we're going to come into half frog. So slowly sliding the right knee out and the big toe edge, so the inside of the right foot is resting on the floor. So finding a shape here where maybe the knee is level with the hip. If that feels too strong, there's always an option to take it a little further away. Any padding you need under the knee. You'll know now if that feels like it needs a cushion or a folded blanket just underneath it. And maybe noticing whether you can find a sense of comfort, just 5 to 10% more comfort. Whether that's allowing the glutes to soften a little more, the shoulders. Maybe that's bringing the head down to one side. Following the flow of your breath in and out. And when you're ready, gently releasing the right leg, allowing it to come or become parallel with the left, and taking a few moments for the body to settle here. And when you're ready, encouraging the left leg to come into a mirroring shape. So frog on the left hand side, knee, encouraging the knee to feel supported. Maybe the knee is in line with the hip, maybe it's a little further away. Just finding a shape that you know you can hold for about 2 minutes. Big toe edge, the inside of the left foot is resting on the floor and taking any support you need. Finding stillness in this shape. Maybe you're able to soften through the glutes a little more. Maybe the jaw can relax. Following your breath in and out. When you're ready, slowly sliding the knee away from you, encouraging the left leg to become parallel with the right. And gently pushing back into child's pose. Maybe the hands come underneath the forehead, or you use a block or a brick. Just taking a few breaths here, breathing into the back of the body. Utilising the back of the lungs, that about 70% of our breath moves to as we inhale. And then very slowly, quietly as you can, gently finding your way onto your back. Bringing the knees in for a hug, Apanasana. And we'll come into a twist. So a couple of options here. You may just want to bring the hands out towards the sides of your body. Depending if you have space, maybe it's cactus. Bring the feet quite wide and just gently bring the knees from left to right, windscreen wiping. And this can feel really quite soothing, supportive, just enough to bring a little bit of a twist to the spine, bring a bit of movement. That swaying motion feels quite comforting. Or maybe then you bring the knees into the chest and drop them down to one side. And if you are coming into the still version here, encouraging the knees to be supported. So whether they come down to all the way to the floor, or maybe you pop in a couple of cushions or bricks underneath the knees. Gaze can remain up above towards the sky, or maybe the gaze looks over the opposite shoulder, so twisting through from the crown of the head to the base of the spine. You're welcome to bring the hand to the top leg, just a very gentle encouragement for the legs, the knees to stay grounded. If you have come into the still version of our supine twist, slowly finding your way back to center with your knees and encouraging the knees to the opposite side. Taking a moment to support the knees if they need a cushion or block just underneath to ensure they're grounded so we feel supported. Maybe the gaze goes over the opposite shoulder, and maybe the hand gently encourages the knees to stay or remain grounded.
when you're ready, bringing the knees back to center, or if you're still taking the flowing movement, finding stillness, one last hug of the knees, and finding your way into Shavasana. Or you may find a shape that supports you more for relaxation. Encouraging a sense of support, a sense of feeling held. And that might be with legs up the wall or legs on a chair. If you have a blanket, making sure you're fully covered. Socks to keep toes warm. And as you find stillness, maybe bringing your mind to focus on your breath, a sense of finding stillness, serenity, support in our breath, noticing the flowing movement of the breath, a little like water. It's a gentle, continuous flow. Maybe you call to mind the sound of a stream, soothing sound of water, similar to the soothing sound of our breath. Noticing if you can encourage your body to soften a little more. Maybe that's around the toes and the ankles. Maybe that's around the shins, the calf muscles. Bringing your awareness to the knees, the back of the knees, softening a little more. The thighs. The pelvis, the hips, your glutes. The lower back, belly, rib cage, upper chest and upper back. Maybe sensation of melting, softening. Around the shoulders, your forearms and upper arms. Not forgetting the elbows. Your wrists, the back of your hands, the palms, and all the fingers and thumbs. Softening around the neck, jaw, facial muscles, eyes, ears, the back of the head, the forehead, and the crown of the head. Noticing if the tongue is resting in the lower part of your mouth. Softening, melting. And listening to your breath. Slowly bringing yourself back into the space you're in, your awareness of where you are, and finding some movement in your body. That may take the form of gently moving your head, your ankles, your feet, your wrists or your hands. Slowly, maybe bringing the knees in for a hug, maybe taking a full body stretch. Gentle movements, supportive movements, and finding your way eventually onto one side, whichever side you're most drawn to, most supports you, and taking a moment there with the knees curled up, hand or arm under the head. Now when you're ready, finding your way up to a seated position, using any support you need to, coming to cross-legged in Sukhasana or Siddhasana, maybe even kneeling. Always welcome to be seated on a chair. Finding length through the spine, softness in the shoulders, across the face. And you're welcome to bring the hands into a slightly different mudra today, Kalaka Mudra. We take the hands and we cross them at the wrists, so one hand is crossed over the other. It doesn't actually matter which way round. So the back of the hands are almost together. The little fingers then link, and the first and the middle finger come to connect with the thumb. So it's the ring finger is free, it's extending outwards. So coming into an interesting shape here. Kalaka Mudra said to calm, to support our emotional well-being and bring balance. So always good if we've had a intense week, busy week, just needing to find balance, emotional support as well. Maybe bringing the hands to heart center, softly closing the eyes if that feels comfortable for you. And taking a moment here again, the analogy of water. Maybe you visualize a lake. It could be a small lake, a vast lake. But noticing the surface of the lake. And you may begin to notice ripples that form across the water. And as they dissipate, a bit like us throwing a stone or a pebble into the water, those ripples melt away. So do our thoughts, worries, anxiety, fatigue or brain fog. They feel lifted. They feel as if they slowly disappear. So maybe you begin to bring to mind anything that's been troubling you this week or exhausting you this week. Imagining it is the center of a ripple and visualizing the ripple, the wave, slowly rippling, melting away. Noticing the connection in the hands. mudra, hand gesture, channeling our energy to support our emotional well-being and balance. When you're ready, gently releasing the hands, softening the shoulders, and you're welcome to take an inhalation and sigh the breath out. Maybe bringing the hands back into a mudra, Anjali mudra this time, joining both halves of the body together, both hemispheres of the brain. Taking a moment to acknowledge how you feel. Acknowledge and thank yourself for practicing yoga today. I'm going to take my hands to my forehead for kind thoughts, to my lips for kind words, and back down to my heart center for kind action. Om Shanti.